Yeah, no, for
All right, welcome to Future Role Model, podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model. I am your host, Natasha Pearl Hansen, and in the studio today, I have Francisco Ramos.
yes. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you
being
for
here. For your
this
weird
glass
glass
of
of
water. And,
Usually there's bottles, and I went in the fridge today, and there's like fancy bottles, and I didn't know if I could disperse all
okay.
them.
I was gonna say I don't know if I could give you a fancy bottle, so you get the plastic.
Yeah, you just get the plastic. But yeah, how things been with you?
It's good. Been good. Working a lot. Doing just a little. You know how this is. Just,
Yeah, I
It's
do.
like it's always hard to like when people say like, "How do you doing?" I'm like. I
Same
mean,
shit.
we
I
all
know.
do the same thing. Is like if something big happens, you'll know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
That's all.
we
That's,
don't have to like tell you because you'll
yeah,
find out.
exactly. That's what I always say to him. Like for the longest time, that was my biggest gripe about hanging out at places like the store,
Yeah.
just because it would be that conversation
The
all night
same over,
long, and
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to say to these people.
Yeah.
But then, once you hit a certain point, you've been doing this for a decade, then you're like, I don't really care. Nobody's going to
Yes.
ask that really anymore. You kind of just say
I
it because you
know.
say
I
it,
know.
but nobody really cares.
No, and that's yeah. I mean, that's why I was just like everybody's doing their thing. It's like
Yeah.
we're all doing the same
We're all
thing.
just
We're
trying to
all
make a
doing
living.
shows. Yeah, podcasts, writing, everything. So it's like
Yep.
but it's been good. Next week I'll going to Utah, doing a show over there, headlining over there at
Oh, yeah?
Wise Guys Comedy Club.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
heard Wise Guys was pretty
It's
great.
good. Yeah. I'm doing the Jordan Landing, which I never done. I've done the Salt Lake City, which I guess Jordan Landing is like 20 minutes from there or something. It's another club.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really done Utah, Idaho. There's is Salt Lake City close to Salt Lake City?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like I think it's like 20 or 30 minutes from it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's just in like the Red Rocks, like all those clubs that are in the center of the
yeah.
country that everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're so much fun. I'm like,
Yeah.
that feels so random to me, but
I know. Yeah, I mean, I got booked, so it wasn't like
Sure,
It's
yeah.
one of those things where it's like, yeah, but no, but they're like I already did the one that they have in their main one, and it was really good. Like,
Yeah.
the crowds were really good. The staff is really good. The owner's really good. Yeah, so.
that's cool. Have you been doing mostly a lot of touring stuff lately, or what do you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. It's a mixture of stuff. I do it from like I go from clubs to colleges to
Okay,
them
so you do some of the
private
college
gigs.
stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just
Yeah.
yeah. It's a mixture of the. I mean, the colleges gigs are good because they pay really well. So
Yeah.
it's one of those ones where like you want to do. I mean, for me, I'm cool with doing those a couple of months. That'd be awesome. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then try to combine it with like obviously doing clubs.
Yeah, that's the hard balance. I feel like I don't really do colleges. I've done like 2. Yeah, so I haven't really gotten into
Yeah,
the college
yeah.
circuit. But I had been asked recently to do a cruise, and
I did that, and
but
yeah.
I don't
That's
think
not
it's
my
my
thing.
thing.
No,
That's and that's what I said. I said I've been doing
That's
fine,
good.
like picking
Your
the
thing,
places
yeah.
that I think work for me.
Yeah, I mean, my main thing was, and whoever does cruises, I mean, cool. I mean, they pay well as well too. But like, my thing is just the fact I always felt like I was like in like white collar prison. Like 'cause it's like
Yeah.
you're like you
You
got
just
the
have to-
food, you got the gym, you got this, but you're stuck.
You have to see like this. That was the thing
see
that
the
I
same
thought
people.
about for myself. I'm like, I have to perform in front of them. I have to censor myself.
Oh yeah, that's another thing too. You can't. Yeah, you gotta be like really like clean, and they
Yeah.
like kids are in there with their parents,
And like, I'm just not. That's not.
That's not your thing,
That's
yeah.
not my thing. Could I do? I mean, could I do 45 of like G material? No. PG, yeah, but I'd
Well,
have to
yeah.
be changing it like
when-
a lot.
The first time I did it, I had to do it, like 30, 45 minutes or 40 minutes, and it was just like a huge like theater of like maybe 500.
Fuck.
And like, but
Wait,
it-
on the ship?
on the ship.
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
But that's just one show. You
See,
do like,
no.
and like, but it wasn't like
And then you
packed,
gotta
so it's
hang
all
out
spread
with them
out.
all after.
And all the people, like just all the people, and I'm like just like, you're like, I'm just trying to do everything that I can do, and
Yeah.
then finally I'm like, all right, but, and then like the first week I did it, the first time whenever I got to port, I talked to I called my manager, and I'm like, hey, I gotta get it. He's like, what? He's like, what is wrong? He's like, I'm like, I get it. I was like having fever. I mean, because also another thing too, there's no like the internet is really bad. I don't know. I heard one guy told me recently that for his boat it was like better now, whatever. But like when I went, it was like no, the internet was not good at all, and it's really expensive, so you can't even use it. So you're literally like off the grid. So like it's not like you can like okay, I'm gonna at least I could watch Netflix or I can write, I can all the
Get work
there's
done.
nothing
Yeah.
that much, and then so I basically watch all the seasons of the life of the Love Boat. Because that's the only thing that they had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, I can't. Nah. So for me, I'm definitely,
You're more of a club college person.
yeah. The fact that
I
is
could
like,
see that you're fun,
Yeah.
but you're like I always resonate with people whose comedy where I'm just like, I can tell they're just being themselves.
Yes.
I don't like to have
yeah.
to censor myself.
And that's the thing is like when you're, I think being like a more of like you have to become like the, like the what a
The
comic.
Disney version of yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Yeah.
didn't want to. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna become like, hey everybody, hi. So I'm not.
I know.
I can't.
Yeah, I totally get it.
I can't do that. So,
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah.
How long have you lived in Los Angeles now?
I think it's about between 11 and 12 years.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are
Time
you from
really
here?
flies. No, I'm from Wisconsin,
Okay.
but I started comedy in Chicago,
Oh, okay.
and I was there for 5 years, and then been here for 8, a little over 8.
Go.
Yeah. Where did you start comedy? Here?
I started here. I mean, I grew up in Maryland, D.C. Area, and so it was only one like my last, basically I dabble into comedy, like improv comedy in D.C. But I really, when I moved here, that's when I really started,
And so background, where is your family originally from?
So my family and I was born in Venezuela. So I was born there, and then we moved to the U.S. To D.C., Maryland, when I was 12. Because my mom got a job at the Pan American Health Organization, which is part of like those international
Yeah.
organization things, and that's why we moved. And
Good for her. She like went straight into getting a government job.
Oh yeah, I mean, because those are the ones that are really like all those World Bank, type of jobs. Is like if you get in, it's like that's why people never, they always stay there because
yeah.
it's like
Nothing
the
opens
benefits
unless
are
people
the same.
die.
Yeah, pretty much. The
Yeah.
benefits are the great. Like my like in my mom's case, like their job would pay like 80% of school.
Oh damn.
So it's like that's why my mom and she put me and my sister in private school, and then for college, I don't have any student loans,
That's
because
fucking amazing.
Kind of like they pay,
So was it tough? I mean, do you remember the process of moving here from Venezuela, or was that a time
yeah.
where the green card situation was less tricky?
Well, it was the process was because when you move from like any kind of diplomatic or international organization things, like you get like what is called like a G4 visa, which is basically like with that visa, you like as long as you're you're part of you have that visa, you can do whatever. It's like kind of like
You're like a
like
citizen.
a citizen in a way. The only thing is that you can't vote or anything like that. Or another thing too that's
Which is stupid. If you get to if you're paying taxes and you're a citizen.
Well, that's the thing. I was just gonna say
or
you
is
don't
that
pay
it?
taxes.
Oh.
So even
Okay.
So like
That's a fair trade,
so
I
that's
suppose.
that's the thing
That's a
that
fair trade.
you don't. So that's why a lot of people don't.
That's fucking cool.
Don't get
you don't
so you
pay
get
taxes?
No, that's why everybody that's working there, they don't become citizens, because if you become citizens, you have to pay taxes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pro and con, obviously, to that.
Yeah.
You don't have as many rights necessarily,
Yeah.
but then you don't. So, I mean, it kind of allows you. I mean, there's always mixed things about this. People that sit on the fence as far as people coming into the country, but to get on your feet and working for the government, so like everything is obviously tracked and legal, and then. Once you're up and running and you are a citizen, then everything changes
Yeah.
and you can vote and.
Oh
all
yeah,
that.
yeah. So yeah, for me it was like
It's nice to have a cushion to just get shit together once you get
course,
here.
Yeah. So it was for us was more basically like we were obviously part of like my mom. She was the one because of her that we got the visa.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, I think it got to a certain age that I was like we wanted to get the green card. And so we got the green card, but it was one of those things like we started the process, and then 9/11 happened, and that kind of messed, because before it was very easy or quick, and because of that, then it kind of like basically like you had to like resubmit again, and then for me to get the green card was like took like 4 or 5 years, and I couldn't get
Fuck.
out of the U.S.
At the time, you couldn't leave?
because you can't leave unless there's like a medical and something emergency, because you're not so like while you're trying to get the process of the green card, why are you leaving?
Then you would get stuck wherever you are or something.
Yeah, or like.
Is that
or it's
technically
kinda-
like a dreamer situation?
no, I mean it's not like a dream. It's just more of like a thing of like, look, like, hey, you're trying to become the green card, so it's like, why are you leaving the country in the process of it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, so you have to stay here.
Like, you don't
until
wanna-
Like, yeah,
you
don't
don't
wanna,
like us that
yeah,
much?
Yeah, it's basically like that. It's like, oh, you want this, and now you want to leave. It's kind of like, so you have to stay unless like you can actually yeah, if like, hey, if you have family. I'm like, hey, somebody's dying and you want to go visit them,
Sure, they would
But it's got to
grant
be
those.
extreme cases like that.
Right.
But for us, for me and my sister, it took like 3 to 4 years until we finally got it. And that when I got it, that's when I moved to, which it kind of worked in a great timing. That's when I moved to LA because I was waiting. I was like, let me get all this straightened out before I do that. And,
Yeah.
And it worked out in the timing.
So do you remember your early life in Venezuela really well?
Yeah.
for
I
the
mean,
most
I do. Yeah, it was a very because I mean, with my mom and dad, they they met while working at this company. But like my dad came from like in Venezuela, like just to make it a quick thing, there's no like racism in a way, but there's classism. And my dad came from like a very like poor neighborhood, and my mom, not she was like more like middle class.
Yeah.
So like when so I grew up actually what I heard is like at the beginning my grandparents didn't like my dad because of that in a way.
Yeah.
And then obviously they realized, oh, he's a good guy, all this stuff. And my dad was one of the few, like one of the of all his brothers and sisters that kind of got out of there. Kind of like the hood kind of thing.
Right.
And
so he made something of himself.
Yeah. So my other uncles did too as well, but he was the one that actually like, I don't want to live here. I want to move to a better.
So they're like,
place.
oh, you're better than us.
Yeah, in a way,
Yeah.
No, I mean, but no, he was still very he was very respected.
And Venezuela's
everything.
big.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's
you have a lot of resources, right? Like
yeah,
a lot
well,
of oil, a lot of fossil fuels.
Venezuela should be actually like one of
should
the
be
best
like
countries or in the world.
It really
with
should.
Oil resources and tourism, because Venezuela is a country that has pretty much everything. It's got from like jungle to beach to
Right.
desert to like jungle.
So what happened?
Correction, Chavez, everything. Yeah, just all the crap that's been happening.
Yeah, because
since
I learned
forever.
about that. I learned about all the resources in Venezuela a long time ago. I have
Yeah.
just a lot of friends from all over the world. And I was like, wow, they have that. They have more oil than the
Yeah.
Middle East. They have more.
It's crazy. It's like, to me, Venezuela is like a rich kid that grew up and like his parents gave him everything, and now he just doesn't want. He
Doesn't know how to do anything
doesn't
for
want to do
himself.
anything himself, and always kind of like live off that. Like Venezuela's a country that like even like gas, it's like literally like you could fill your gas tank for like $1, which that should not be the case. It shouldn't be.
Fuck.
It shouldn't be that cheap. Because if you have that, pay a little more so that you can pay for stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just a complete mess up. Like,
Yeah.
it's all this corruption that's been happening since I was born, and then
And they just
before
can't
that,
fix it?
no. I mean, that's why it was all this corruption, and that's why this guy Hugo Chavez, who basically won like a while back, and because he was like it's kind of like what happened here with Trump. It's like a different, like he wasn't a
new-
politician.
yeah.
He was like a military and different ideas and all this stuff. And basically it was all the same thing. It's just from the other side.
Yeah.
Same corruption, same stealing, same BS, but from the other side.
Yeah.
So,
Then that's what people
and
think
even
is
worse,
gonna-
because now it's worse. It's not even better than
Well,
what it
people
was.
always think doing the opposite is going to fix something, and
Yeah.
you just need somebody that's good.
No,
that's all
that's
you
it.
need.
That's all.
Just
That's
somebody
all.
good. You don't have to go extremes all the time.
No,
It's just
that's true.
you bring it. I feel like I'll go and fix Venezuela.
Yeah, let it go. Do
For
it, please.
pretty cheap. No, I'm
Run.
just kidding.
Do it. Run for
So what was childhood like? It was just you and your sister.
Yeah, so me and my sister and
Were you kind of like a middle class in Venezuela?
yeah,
would
so
you
we
say?
were middle class, and but the cool the mention that I mentioned about my dad and stuff like that is because I grew up with also like like even though I grew up more middle class, but I also used to always visit my dad's family, and it was like in the port. So I grew up with that. Like I remember going to visit my grandma, my dad's mom, and it was like in like the bad part of Caracas, but it was like so. I kind of like that for me led me to in a way to like, oh, I get along with kind of, or I know how to get along with people for no matter where you are, and also not to judge them as well. To
Right.
see them and like, oh, people are the same. It's just you can't judge somebody because they're poor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I kind of grew up with. So that kind of like that was like my childhood. Of, even though I was more on the middle class part, I was hung out more with my mom's family because my grandma lived close to us, and my grandma was like my second mom. So we always hung out with her and stuff like that. You know, me and my sister. So we kind of grew up with that. But for me, that was kind of like what shaped me in terms of like where I don't see people. I never grew up with the whole thing of like, oh, you're poor kind of thing.
You just kind of bounce between, like, that's how I always was too. I was just it was easy for me to just kind of bounce between different cliques.
yes,
I was kind of a connector amongst a lot of groups.
which is I think that's also knowing now that I think that helped me in a way when I moved to the U.S. to kind of like not knowing the language, but always had to get along with everybody.
Just navigate it
yeah,
easier.
yeah, yeah.
So what was that move like for you at that young of an age, 12? You know, you're kind of like coming into your own as like almost becoming a teen,
Man, yeah,
a
that
man,
was tough. Yeah,
and then change. Did you know any English
not
yet?
at all. I mean, they teach you English in Venezuela, like they
Which-
teach here Spanish.
Yeah.
And we're hard.
like-
I know you don't know anything. It's like completely
all
like
right.
you're like it's all BS.
Well, and we're
like,
such a slang. Same with Latin speaking country. You know, we have so much slang. You
Yeah.
guys,
Oh, yeah.
all the different countries that speak Spanish have so much slang. Like you could learn for one country and it would be completely
of
different.
course, yeah.
So
No, yeah, no, I didn't know any English, and like you said, I was like in that process of like, I remember that was like when I was starting going to parties and like meeting, with girls and meeting
Yeah.
girls and stuff like that, and then we moved, and then now I'm here, and like, and I had like again, my mom put me in that little private school in Maryland, and which I knew later, but like before, like if you go into a public school, they had like ESL or something for like kids that didn't know
yeah,
English. So, but for me, that didn't happen because this school was so small that it was just basically one grade, one class per grade.
back in Venezuela.
No, back in Maryland.
Oh, back in
you know,
Maryland.
So
Okay.
like, so I didn't have anybody to teach me English. So
Right.
what, basically, my whole sixth grade was me just going to class and just like literally sitting in the back, and that's it. And the teacher tried to do as much as she can, but she had to actually teach the class. So I didn't really. So my whole
Was that just like a bunk year for you then,
yeah,
or what?
it was. I never, I literally like was just like not, just trying to immerse or trying to, and I wanted to learn as much as I can because I wanted to belong. I wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I did. They had a math workbook, and like I remember spending like till like 3 or 4 in the morning doing all these math problems. And my parents were like, "Why do they give you so much work? That's crazy." And what happened, I realized they told me. I learned later on that I thought we had to do the whole workbook, and I only had to do like pages like 44 to 45.
Oh, you just-
and I understood do the whole thing.
So you were just really good at math and couldn't speak any English at all.
Not at all. Yeah. So yeah. That
So
was,
do you remember when you first started to kind of pick it up and were like, okay, I can do this?
Yeah, it was basically like after the summer and started seventh grade. That's when I went back to school, and I was like, oh, now I understand. This is great. And like,
Like a year
yeah,
and a half.
basically, yeah, like because we got there in January, and I got in like, school. And so basically after the summer, so basically like 7 months.
Yeah. Oh,
It
well,
took me
that's
to
not that
like,
bad.
yeah, to actually like, okay, cool, I kind of get it, And I thought I was in. I thought I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm American. Nobody knows where I'm from, kind of thing. And then remember we did this play it was kind of like something like Christmas Carol or something like that, where I had like 1 or 2 lines, and they taped it, and then they were showing the next week in class, and then it comes my part, and I say whatever the line is, but I said it with such a thick accent that I'm in the class and going like, what the hell? Like
Like
oh,
you
yeah.
surprised
Like
yourself?
I was like, wow, I talk like this? Like I had no idea. Like I thought I was like talking English like with an American accent. And then this thing like actually put me back. I'm like, oh my God, I've been talking like this. It's kind of like you were like, oh, I had a booger all this time and nobody
Right.
told me. And I'm like, and after at that point I was like, oh, that kind of like gave me like low
Like-
self-confidence, kind of like, oh, now like I had that thing of like, oh, I don't like it.
Oh, you didn't think the accent was cool?
No, because I thought it was,
Did other people think the accent was cool?
I mean, nobody. It's kind of like you get made fun. Like I had made fun of stuff. I got made fun of because of like sometimes of the accent of because of words that I would pronounce differently and stuff like that. But not. I mean, there was one time that one guy called me a spick. Which at that point I didn't know what that was. I thought he meant speak. So I was like, no, speak. And he was like, what? No, I'm like, no,
You're
speak.
like, no.
And but yeah, stuff like that. But really, it was more my thing.
He's like, what a badass.
I
He's
know.
just telling me no.
Yeah. I have that. I do a bit. I
Yeah,
was
no.
like, what the hell? Like, imagine trying to be racist and it doesn't work. He's like, what? No. And he's like, no, I'm not.
I'm definitely not as big.
Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty much like, now that I go back and think about it, it was more on my mind than everything
Yeah.
else. I think like I just wanted to. Again, I always wanted. That was my thing since ever. Since ever. It's like I just wanted to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
Even in Venezuela, I just wanted to be like one of the cool, not the nerdy kids, but the cool kids, whatever.
Well, and was there a lot of diversity in your high school, or was Maryland pretty whitewashed?
It was my the middle school that I went was they had a little diversity because it had some kids that were also from international organizations,
Yeah.
but they were all like American in a way. Like, they were like some Latin kids, and then like there was like one black kid in my
Yeah,
school,
that's
and
like
he was
how my school
and he was like not even he was like like mixed. So I think
Yeah.
now I go back, it's like, well, we can accept only one and it has to be mixed. No, but like, and then when I went to high school, that was a little more mixed, in terms of like diversity, but during my high school years or middle school years, in all my class, I never had anybody that spoke Spanish or that I would speak Spanish with. I never have any, which was funny. But then later on, when I was in high school, I met other friends from Venezuela that were in the same kind of like, their parents moved here as well. When they were 12, all this stuff. So then I started having Latino friends outside of high school, and then so I always had like a double life. Like I was like Frank in high school, and then when I was in the weekends, when I go out, I was Francisco, and then we go out to DC to dance salsa,
Oh,
merengue.
fuck, that's interesting.
It was such a and then I again going back to I could mix in with hey, what's up, bro? Lacrosse, all this stuff, and then I was speaking Spanish and all this stuff. So yeah, that was throughout my high school. So I was like that.
Oh, interesting. So you
Yeah.
had two,
Two basically things that I could, and that also led me, I think it has
make you be even that much more able to accept different.
Yeah. And also, I think knowing it has helped me a lot with comedy because it's oh, now I know what, because for me, I grew up I know how I can make, American people laugh, but also how I make Latino laugh, or how can I connect those things where they get it and they don't get it, you know what I mean?
That's two very big markets of comedy
Yeah.
that you've got on your side. Not that it needs to be a sides thing, but if that's something I see a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
If they're not good in an urban room, not good in front of a Latino
Yeah.
audience, not good in front of an international audience,
I
those are
completely
skills
have-
that are really helpful.
even yesterday, I had to do two. I got hired to do two Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
One was in Spanish, in a Mexican restaurant in Korea. In Koreatown, I had to do 20-30 minutes in Spanish. But for that type of company.
Do your same jokes or
I do,
totally different?
yeah, pretty much. I do most of them. Stuff that can obviously
That
works.
translate, yeah.
That translates. But yeah, it works. You know?
Ah, interesting.
And then later that night, I had to do a country club, a bunch of doctors.
Oh,
In English.
So you put on your Chad accent
Yeah,
for
so
that?
I was like, "Hey guys, yeah, how you doing, Dr. Greenberg?"
So did you get into anything in high school that started making you feel like you might end up becoming a performer?
Not at all. I was
Really?
again. I always had the thought of doing I remember I either want to do something with music or remember walking by the acting theater thing and watching them and kind of had a little but then I was so again I was so being about being cool and stuff like that. I'm no, that's not for So
I know.
all I did in high school was basically sports. From soccer and track. That's pretty much what.
And
I
then
did.
go out on the weekends and
And
dance
then go on
salsa
the
and
weekend-
merengue?
Yes.
One of my first jobs in Chicago was teaching Latin dance.
Oh, okay.
So I started learning the merengue is one of my favorite dances.
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
done it in a long time, but is there any place fun in LA that you've been out to dance?
Well,
that-
I know there's they do like mostly salsa. I don't know if they put merengue, but mostly salsa. It's called La Floridita, which is
I've heard
that
to
one,
go there.
on
Yeah.
Mondays. I think that's where they have like a live band and stuff
Fuck
like
yeah.
that. I don't know other places, but yeah, I mean, I think I know that one.
We'll get into more of that because I want to talk about like you doing the dancing show and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But so out of high school, is that when you started? When did you start to work towards your green card?
That was well, it was like I think we started the process like when I was like in 19 or something like that, when I was in first year of college. Mm-hmm. And then after
What did you
that,
go to college for?
I actually majored in finance and international business.
All that math.
So
all
yeah,
that fucking
all
math.
that math that I was like, yeah, I'm not using it. The only reason like now I know it's good that I major in that because now I know how to budget the little money that we make as comics. You know,
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, now I know that. But it's like, but yeah, I did that, and then the green card. I think I finally got it when I was like 23, 24, something like that.
So you'd already graduated college.
Yeah, I graduated college and I worked like 1 year, almost 2 years at this investment firm in Virginia. You know, and then
How'd you feel about that?
that was well. I mean, I would say that's when I started having like a quarter life crisis because that's when I started. That's when I finally, I graduate. Well, the last semester of college, I was gonna do this class which is called security evaluations, which is how to analyze companies and see if and I thought that to me that was like, oh, this is what I want to do, and I was very excited to take the class because this is what I was gonna do, and I remember taking the first class. And I was such a huge disappointment because I was like, oh, I hate this. And I was like, so the whole semester I basically, like cheated my way through it. Like I didn't go to class or whatever.
Yeah.
But I still, but that was the first hint of like, like this is weird. Like why I don't like what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yep.
And then, but I graduated and then my sister at that time was working at this investment firm. So she got me like an internship position. And then I got hired there, and I was like, okay. And then in my mind, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do again. Okay, cool. And I started working, and again, but I was like, I remember going out, and he was like, I had a girlfriend at the time, and then we go out, and we were and it was always like, everybody was talking about the same thing all the time. I was like, well, after this, then we're gonna do the masters, and I could just see how like, oh, this is like, I know what's gonna happen in my life. It was very like, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I know like, okay, I did this, then work for a couple of years, then get the masters, then get married, and then have kids, and then get divorced, and then I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah. All the bad
all,
stuff.
all the stuff that I was
Yeah.
like, and then another thing that happened, I was in a happy hour, and there was this guy who was an intern at the company that I was working in, and we're having drinks, and he was like, man, I love doing what I do. I could do it for free, And when he told me that really hit me because I was like, how come I don't feel like that? That's weird,
Right.
And that's when I started going like, okay, like if I keep working here, if I'm 40 and I keep doing this that I don't like, I'm gonna kill myself. So I was like, all right, I gotta find what I like to do. And I always recommend this book because this book really changed me, The Alchemist. I don't know if you
Oh
read it.
yeah, I love The Alchemist.
So The Alchemist, I
Yeah.
read that book, and then I started seeing signs. I started going back and thinking, like, I remember in high school I won like most likely to be a, acting star or whatever, which so
Really?
weird.
That's so random.
Which is so weird because I was
But
like,
you were
I was
just
never in
personable.
it. Yeah, I was just like a likable guy, but I was
Yeah.
never, And then I remember people telling me, "Man, you're funny." It's like, oh, you should be all these things that I was like, and then and that's when I started. And then I read this other book, which is really good, which was I forget what was the title, but it's something about like you don't know what you want, but if you like, but you will find out how to do it, and you do several exercises on how to find what you like or what you
Yeah.
and that led me to like one of the first exercises was like, all right, this you don't like what you like, you don't know what you like, but describe what you don't like, and everything was basically what I was doing at the moment.
Right.
So it's like, well, now you know
Like
what you don't like.
structured,
Yeah, like office,
corporate.
corporate, all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's like now let's find what you like, and then everything always led to comedy because ever since I was little, I always like to make people laugh,
Mm-hmm.
joke around. I was like watching comedy. Remember Whose Line Is It Anyways?
That was
very-
my favorite show back in the day.
That was like the show.
We used to
that
do
was-
it at birthday parties.
Yeah.
We would get like brooms and shit and do
Yeah.
the whole props game. I used to love that,
was
show.
I will remember. Yeah, so I was like, really like that. I watched Seinfeld a lot. That was like one of my favorite shows too
Yeah.
as well. So then that's when I decided to take I started research and I took an improv class at the DC Improv. I never told anybody. I remember going from where I used to live in Maryland and go to DC. It's like 40 minutes to go to DC, you know. So I
Yeah.
would go like in Sunday afternoon. Didn't tell anybody. I took my first class and that's the first time it was a couple of things happened that I was like, when I first started doing it, I was like, wow, I felt that I was good at it. You know, like when I was like, I'm good at this more than okay, this is whatever.
Right.
And then another thing too, I was like that I wanted to do it again. I didn't want to like most of the times, most of the things that I did before was all I got bored very quickly. Like either I would like, play a video game. I never finished Super Mario World because I was like, man, or
Yeah.
like whatever. I just start skateboarding and then I got bored, whatever. This one I was like, I want to get better at it. I want to keep finding out more and more. And then when we did the first show and I got on stage and again I was very introverted. When we were growing up, my sister would make, would take all of the cousins because she's the oldest and do like little plays for the family, and I would cry all the time. I was like, "Ah," I didn't wanna
Secretly,
do
you
it.
knew you wanted to be in the
Yeah,
plays.
and now and I realized, and then when I did the first show for improv, I really felt good in being on stage. I really liked being on stage. I felt even
Yeah.
more comfortable being on stage than off stage, And those things, that's when I was going like, all right, I gotta keep doing this. And I did that for a year, took classes, year and a half, and then that's when I decided to actually go like, all right, if I want to do this, I need to actually make this. I need to go
Make
where
a
the
move.
where the best people are, and then I actually considering Chicago, and then New York and L.A. And I picked LA because I wanted to do improv at that time. So and I love SNL and I like doing
Plus warmer
characters.
weather,
I did that, yeah.
film, TV, just
Yeah.
more
And
opportunities.
also I wanted to. It was also I could like really like be on by myself.
Yeah.
Because if I'd moved to New York, I knew I was gonna be back. It was so easy to go like 4 hour drive
Yeah.
every weekend. And I
Exactly.
wasn't gonna be there. So and then I moved to LA to to start doing this.
Yeah, that was similar because like when I first decided I wanted to get into improv, I quit college. Also because I had figured out I thought I was going to go into medicine.
Oh wow.
I was pre-med.
And that's like a huge
I know. And then I was taking this class and I still am thankful for it. I don't even remember the name of my instructor, but it was sports medicine that I wanted to go
Yeah.
into. I thought I was going to work for like the Bulls
Yeah.
or, the Packers or something. And they played a video showing really,
What it
really
is?
nasty sports injuries.
Oh wow.
Like skiing, BMX, like what kind of
yeah.
breaks you would encounter if you were actually dealing in that
Yeah.
line of work. And I could not hold my stomach together.
Oh.
And
wow.
I quit college that next semester.
Wow.
I was like, I'm in the wrong line of work. This
Wow,
is not.
that was so great that because
No
most people
shit.
then don't realize
They
that, you know what I
probably
mean?
don't like show people that until way
Yeah.
later, and then
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
cadaver shit, and you're like, oh my god.
Well, I'm glad somebody didn't show me like with comedy. I'm like, this is how you're gonna live miserably
know.
for the next
On
for
a
the big
floor,
first 4 or 5 years. I was
eating
like,
cereal.
yeah.
So how did you save up enough money to make that move?
Well, I at that point I was still I was working for like that investment firm, so I had some money that I'd saved for like a year and a half or 2 years, and then also I realized and I was like. I was also very realistic. I was very like low expectations.
Sure.
I was like, because I was never that was like, I'm going to go here and become the Hollywood star and it's going to work right away. No, I was like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to actually get a job in finance because in case I do it and I don't like it or I'm not good at it, at least I'm still working there and I can always move back to DC or whatever I want to, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I had some money saved to, basically, live for like a couple of months until I find a job. And then I found a job at an investment firm. And it was one of those things that, when things work because they need to work, like it was the best job that I needed to do comedy because it was in Century City by, where the Twin Towers are.
Yeah.
And then it was from 6:30 to 2:30. So I could leave at 2:30.
And you had all night open for
all
mics.
the open mic stuff, and also the job wasn't that. It was literally like I would say like a trained monkey could have done my job.
Yeah.
Because literally I could have every time I got there I had to it was basically 8 hours. I could do the job in an hour and then I had to find out how am I gonna pretend that I'm working for 7 hours.
Yeah.
So I would just do whatever, go so
I feel
many
like
times.
that's
a lot of corporate stuff.
Like I talked to my mom even, and sorry mom for throwing you under the bus, but she's on Facebook like 70% of the
I
time.
know, like nobody works. Nobody works in any.
Like, what are people doing?
I know it was that was what, but during that job, so that's how I could support myself. I had that job, and then that I slowly started going open mics, and then
So you just bought your one-way ticket out here, didn't know anybody?
yeah, I drove here.
Oh, you drove?
I drove. I had a friend who drove. Which I'm also always thankful to my friend that he drove, because I remember like the first night we drove, and the first night we stayed somewhere like out of some motel or hotel. I remember going to the bathroom and like just crying in front of the window, just going like, "What the fuck am I doing?" Like, because I was like very. So I'm glad that I had, but then I was like, I can't now tell him like, "Hey, let's go back," Like,
Yeah.
So
You're
I'm glad
committed.
that I had somebody to, because if I was myself, I could have. But you know what?
You would have hit the mountains and you'd have been like,
Yeah, no, yeah, we had to go through like it was like a huge snowstorm and going through Denver, and we had to like stop, and it was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, when I moved out, I did the same thing. I got a friend, just one of my guy friends. We bartended at this place together in Chicago.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to move to LA. And he's like, that sounds fun. I'm going to do that too. And I'll come with you. And so same thing, but we took, because it was in like first weekend in September, like Labor Day weekend. But we had heard horror stories about driving through Denver.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
And we had this big ass, like 20-foot U-Haul. And we were like, if we try to go through the mountains with this. So we did like the southern route. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, drive that thing across the country.
I was like, I drove, and plus we did it like very like we didn't take our time. We did it like
too
3 or
fast?
4 days. So it was
Yeah.
like driving for like 12 hours a day, sleeping, and I was like, I don't think I could. I was like, I can do this again. Driving. But it was.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things like it was. I remember driving through the snow. It was like my buddy was like, and he's a good driver, and he was like, we gotta stop, if not we're gonna die, because it was literally like we couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's freaky.
But yeah, so we drove. We got here, and then I started doing the Groundlings. I wanted to do the Groundlings.
Nice.
Because that's what I wanted to do.
How did you end up finding Groundlings? Did you just ask around?
Just
You were like,
internet,
yeah.
I started researching
Good
and
idea.
then going and then remembering going like, because SNL, Will Ferrell and all this stuff. I was
Yep.
like, where do they go? And they, like
Off the
Sherry O'Terry.
Groundlings.
Well, I was like, so I want to do that. So I took a class. I got into the class, then I got into the other class. I got to the second level, I think. But then I remember one of the things about with improv, like I started seeing also with like there was like a click thing, like very like
Yeah.
like also like either the instructors like certain people, and then the other ones I started going like, well, this is like you could be doing this for a while and never advance, and all they do is just take your money.
And they just recycle you through.
And
Yeah.
and also I also didn't find like a core group of people outside of the class just to do stuff. Like if I would have found like 2 other guys or 2 other girls that would have just done sketches or
Yeah.
then I probably wouldn't have done stand-up.
That was my saving grace at Second City, because we had, it was less clicky back in the day. I think it's
Yeah.
more clicky now.
Oh, okay.
But I would assume from what I hear, like UCB and Groundlings has a little bit more of that. Second City, we had specific classes that like when you got in the conservatory, you stayed with them. So you didn't have a chance to really like make new friends, which was actually really nice, because
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just had to
yeah.
do everything together.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, different experience, but everybody's experience in all these different improv circles is totally different, depending on where.
Yeah, I mean, because I think I was talking to a friend. I think maybe it would have been, maybe I should have taken like more like Second City or UCB, less about more about the improv, and which is that one was
Yeah.
more focused on obviously the
Characters,
characters,
yeah.
and also like you needed to have already like some kind of acting background. I didn't have any acting background, so
Right.
like I was like just going in with like
You were just going in natural.
naturally. I was like, but yeah. So at that point, I was like, and then at that point, I was like, well, let me go start doing open mics, because you don't have to depend on anybody and it's free,
Right.
you know. And then when I started doing it, that's when I was like, I started like meeting, the class of open mics that I was, that I was with, and then going to the comedy store and getting better, like more, and then I started working at the comedy store.
And at that time, who were some of the people? Because I do always refer to comedy as classes.
Yeah.
Like I have a class I started with in Chicago. And I like that, because when you start seeing people in your class succeed, you're like, you just stay much more positive. You're like, well, we can all just do this.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just nice to see.
Yeah.
So who are some of the people in your class? Because it's just fun to
Yeah.
rehash that.
Yeah, no, it was Gerard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was Josh Adam Myers,
I love
Angelo
Josh.
Bowers. I don't know if you remember Angelo.
I wasn't pals with
Yeah.
Angelo. No, he
was great.
He was before I moved to LA.
Yeah. Amir.
Amir K?
Amir K. What's this the other guy? I remember. Well, I wasn't like hanging out with him that much, but I remember seeing also Adam Devine, a couple of things,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of like the main
That was kinda
ones
your
that
crew.
that I was like would see all
That's
the
a good
time.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, those, And then when I started the Comedy Store, then the class of people that I work with, which was Tony Hinchcliffe and
Yep.
Matt Edgar and Benji Afalalo, and those were like the guys that we
Like your
we
homies?
worked together at the Comedy Store, kind of like the class of working there. Yeah.
Yeah. So describe that, because I've had a couple other people on that have worked at Comedy Store, but what was that experience like for you?
I mean, to me, I always say like the Comedy Store was my master's, was me going to get an MBA or whatever, like because I literally was there for like 2 years, and it basically I learned how to be a comic at the Comedy Store, like how to be myself on stage, not being fake and all. That really taught me. The Comedy Store really taught me all this. Basically what says on the when you go to the Comedy Stores and underneath the booth, it says like you have the potluck is about 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes about not being funny, but about being yourself, and that's what Mitzi always stressed.
Yeah.
And that really taught me, because especially when I worked, it wasn't it wasn't popping it wasn't popular at all. So there was nobody there. So we have to go like basically
In front of each other?
In front of each other. There
Yeah.
was nobody there. Like, and also the guys who would host the shows. Where's this guy? I forget the name now. Danish and O'Neill, and they would just make fun of you and really destroy you. And like you really need to have like a really
skin
thick
and-
skin,
yeah.
and like.
Which
you
is
know.
good for you to learn at a young age.
I think to me it was like it's like a fraternity that was like basically like either stand up to the bullying, and that's the thing. I remember like one occasion, like they brought me up, they were making fun of me, and I just like I said something when I got on stage that made fun of them, and then I did good. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, no," and then you could see the respect of like, "Oh yeah, he's got it."
He
kinda
got
thing.
yeah. He can
You
whip
know.
it back.
And then the other ones were like, "Oh, this is too much." And then it's funny because the Comedy Store led me like because it's funny. It was the toughest one to get in or to be in, but it was the ones that I felt the most welcomed to hang out.
Because it's like a family.
to hang out, yeah.
Well, and it still is, I feel like, one of the clubs that you can just go in on a
hang
night
out,
off and
yes.
just kick it.
That's the thing, because like I never felt that with like the Improv or the Laugh Factory, where you could just like be in the patio and not be bothered,
Yeah.
Or even like at that point there was nobody there, so you could like just go and the guy Tommy, I don't know if you remember Tommy.
Yeah,
So he was like, well, just sit in the back and you could watch, like if you're a comic, you could just sit in the back and just watch the show,
Yeah,
kind
yep.
of thing. So you learn watching the other comics.
Yep. And when I first moved here, 8 years ago, I had a show that I did starting from Chicago. I was running this show from Chicago and flying out every month and doing it. And that's how I met like Doug Fager and a bunch of the boys. Because we were drinking Miller Lights behind the Comedy Store once it closed down, and I was like, "Oh, this
yeah.
is so cool! Everybody just hangs out there, like
Yeah.
it's like a little family."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was just it was interesting because I had never seen that in Chicago. There really wasn't even like hangout spots besides
Got it.
Mike's that were like that.
Got it.
So yeah, it was kind of cool. I was like, "Oh, this is like a step up from all the Mike hangouts that I
Yeah.
used."
yeah. To me, that was what it was. And then when I started working there, as a door guy, then I would just do all my hangout while I was working, basically.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
pretty much working was literally like show up on time.
Kicking it, yeah.
And that's it. Like everything else, like nobody even taught me what to do. Like remember the first time I got the job, I showed up. They're like, "Oh, here's your." They gave me one of the managers. Here's your T-shirt, and I was like, "All right, what am I supposed to do?" They're like, "Just ask around." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is this mess?"
You're like, so just
I was like, "This is like." So I had to ask, like, "What do I do?" I was like, "Oh, I was like, "All right, Jesus." It was such a complete like. It was like a boat, like a.
You'll
what's that,
figure
like
it out, kid.
Yeah, you'll pretty much. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. And who are some of the people that you really were inspired by watching on stage?
Well, I mean, the main one that I always said that I was like, oh, I wanna, like, I really like got to like like I saw him, and I was like, oh, this is like kind of the comedy that I want to do, and also kind of the career that I want to have. Was Sebastian?
Ah,
Yeah, like I
I
saw.
totally can see that.
Yeah, and he
Him being
actually,
an
and he
inspo.
was actually one of the first ones that took me on the road. Actually,
Yeah, that
like
makes
when
total sense.
not that he took me on the road, but like when I went to DC.
Yeah, like, you're like the Latin hymn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
You get
actually like I had to like stop watching him because I would start getting a little like of his
accidentally
fans,
two mannerisms.
and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Well,
'Cause,
you have your own. I mean, you're.
yeah, now I'm like complete like
Yeah.
now I could do something and it's not like and now I know do me,
Yeah.
but like I think in the beginning,
So funny how because like it's funny even just as other comics like sometimes you'll hear that from a person who they're like who was their inspo
yeah,
and then it doesn't really even dawn on you until you hear it and then you're like
Yeah.
oh duh of course that is
yeah, yeah.
but you just think of everybody as their own individual
Of course,
self
no,
so you're
no.
like
And it's good. I think it's like, but for me, I'm in a way, I'm glad that I got to the point where I didn't have to like, if I would have gone so much with him, then I think I would have become too much of him, and then it's
Sure,
harder.
yeah.
And I'm glad that I was like, I got to be with, for a little shows that I did with him, and then I had to like really do my own stuff, or
Yeah.
find my own,
Right.
lane,
yeah, which is the tough thing. I think that happens for a lot of people that open for somebody big.
Yeah.
And like go on the road with somebody big is
Yeah.
that they trying to find their own identity
Of
outside
course,
of that. But
yeah.
it can be so beneficial too because then you get exposure to an audience that you did not
Of
have.
course. No, I think
So
the
it's-
best would be when you're already kind of like established on your own,
Yeah.
and then do that, and
Yeah.
then it's like because then
It puts you in a whole nother.
then you're putting
yeah.
then you're getting all that exposure that you have, but you're not compromising your who you are because you already know what you're doing.
Right,
So-
right, yeah. Which is it's
Yeah.
a tough thing. It's tough to even get asked to go on a road for
I
somebody
know,
big like
yeah.
that
it
too.
was
So
like,
I mean,
that's-
it's a very
yeah.
blessed situation.
And at that point, he wasn't what it is right now. I mean, he was just doing normal club
Yeah.
headliners. I mean, I remember just telling him like, "Hey, I know that you're going to DC, and I'm from there. Can I open for you? And like obviously I'll just go stay with my mom, and I'll go. Like you don't have to pay me. It's like I literally just doing it.
I just
for-
want to do it,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, sure. So
Of
but,
course, yeah, who wouldn't say
Yeah.
it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I haven't read his book yet, but I have a couple friends who are, and they're
okay.
like, they just say it was really cool because he worked at the Four Seasons.
Yeah, he worked at the as a
And
waiter.
I also did.
Oh, you did?
Not
Okay.
the same time,
Ah,
but when
okay.
I started there, when I
Yeah.
first moved to LA, everybody else I worked with was like, "Oh, you're a comedian, and you're gonna be like Sebastian," and
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
"Who's Sebastian?" I didn't know who he was
Yeah.
yet because
Oh,
it
wow.
was, this was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, he wasn't as what
It-
it is now. Yeah.
And then once I started asking around, of course I figured like he was big in the comedy
Yeah,
world,
yes,
but
yeah.
wasn't a household name yet.
Yes, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, when did you start to feel like you were finally coming into your own as a comic in LA?
It's funny because I don't know if I can find like
Like a specific
like
moment?
specific. All I do, like what I tell people is like I always have like little clicks, like I call them clicks or something like always something like
Like a camera flash?
it's kind of like you do something all of a sudden like whoa like I did this I never done this before and that kind of like that's like it was like like a little level
Like
a
an
little,
aha moment?
like an aha moment and it's like so I've had like 4 or 5 and I keep having them but it's like it doesn't it could be from like 1 year and then all of a sudden you do it and it just happens in one show that you're like oh I never felt this before.
Yeah.
I was like so I think now I definitely, and I've been doing it for like 11 years now, and I think it's now I know myself more, and I mean I think with comedy, which is great, you keep learning, but now I'm starting to really finding myself more of like now that I don't have to even before when I started I was very physical, now I'm not as much. And because also I learned like, oh, I'm funny without being physical. Like kind of like knowing like, oh, I'm funny. Like even if I don't try to be funny,
Right.
and that would really like has helped me to become a better comic.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not pushing the jokes or I'm not pushing this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Has there been any, because I haven't been in the LA scene as long as you, but I always wondered what it would have been like had I moved to LA when I was 26. So it wasn't
I was
too
24 or 25, so it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't
young.
like too impressionable,
Yeah.
but were there things that you almost got caught up in just being in the LA scene, or like?
You know what? I know. I did. That was one of the first. Like when I came in, because I was like, one of the reasons when I moved here, I told myself, like, look, if I'm moving here, I'm moving here to try to become this
Yeah.
dream or whatever. I'm not here to party. I'm not here to go out. I'm not here to do anything. And also, like when I was in DC, like my college years, I was like partying like literally every weekend, Monday. Like just like I used to promote parties. I used to. So I was just I was like
Partied
partying
out. Yeah.
So like I was like, I'm not gonna come here and do the same thing that I did over there. Like then I should have just stayed in DC.
Right.
So I never got caught in for the first when people would come to visit me, I'm like, where do we go? I'm like, I have no idea. All I know is comedy clubs.
Right.
So I didn't go out. I really didn't. All my going out. I mean, plus I was working like full time. Then I started working at the comedy store. So there was no really time for me to do anything. I had to, weekends was just basically to go to sleep, and then so I never got caught into any scene beside
the comedy
comedy scene. I wish,
which is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In retrospect, I wish I would have done more of the acting part of it. Like while I was doing comedy, not so much like maybe taking one good acting class,
Just balancing it out a little bit.
Especially when I had the money like of the job where I could like.
They're so fucking expensive.
Yeah, so that, but I never got caught into any of like just party or anything like that. It was just literally like just work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I would try to, before we get out of here, I want to try and get a little bit of pieces of like some of your favorite highlights from maybe early on in your career or when you first thought like maybe this would actually happen for you.
Yeah.
And then some like more recent ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think definitely the first thing, well, when I got passed at the comedy store, that was definitely like a thing. It's funny because
Which was how long ago?
I don't know, maybe 2000. Should I say 2009 or 2010?
Oh, it's good if you can't remember.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. I knew you were.
It was like, maybe 2010. I think I remember, like, like
you
I said,
were
I worked.
when I moved here.
Because I worked for 2 years, and then I got to the point where I was like, well, I don't need this anymore. I'm gonna quit. I wasn't gonna pass, and then all of a sudden I got passed. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like now I can quit. And it's funny because when I got passed, it was very like I remember when Tommy told me, I was like, I wasn't surprised about it. I was like, okay, cool. Like I was like, yeah, I should. In a way,
the right time.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't like arrogance, but it was more like, cool, like, okay, yeah, I'm ready,
Yeah.
like I can do it, So that was one, and then definitely, also I got like 3 years into doing comedy, I did a voiceover for that movie Rio, which that was like I was still working at the investment firm. I went to the auditions while working at the investment firm,
Did you get that from comedy?
And I got that from comedy. I mean, it was one of those things where like I got it from, Skylar Stone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like.
Oh yeah.
I went to. He's like, hey, can you open for me on this show? So I went with him, and it was like this. I forget what is this show that I used to do a while back. It's like 3.5 hours from here, and like, the ranch. I don't know if you ever did it or something. But like I drove, like we drove, so I opened for him, and he's the one that told the casting director that he knew about me because they were looking for, accent Latino voices and stuff like that. So I went in without no, agent or nothing, had no idea what I was doing, and I got the part. And to me that was like when I got the part, and then that led me to get my first agents, and then I got SAG already and all this stuff. That also for me was like also like, this kind of shows me that I'm like the best, but I at least I belong here because I mean. Just 3 years into it, and I just got that, which I was like, oh, great, So that was one huge thing to me that was like, okay, that's like I'm really. And then I remember that led to me like pilot season 2, and then I remember too I almost got like pilot like in the first time I went, which now in retrospect I'm glad that I didn't because I wasn't ready at all. I had no idea what I would have got fired. Like it was like and then you never know how that's gonna affect you.
Later,
if I get fired now, I don't care. But like when you're like just like
when you're new
and you're like, oh, this is great,
because that happens pretty often. I don't think people know that.
No.
That's not something people speak about.
Yeah.
But it happens pretty often where you'll get hired for, you'll still get like paid something, but you'll get hired for a pilot, you'll get hired for a test, you'll get hired for.
And they're like, they watch it and they're like, no, this is not the right
not
part.
working.
And you're fired, and then like, and you're telling people like, hey, I'm gonna be in this show, and like,
yeah,
no,
that's
sorry.
why you learn to
You
not
don't
announce
say anything.
I had gotten a couple pilots, like, well, maybe it was 4 years in to living in LA, 3-4 years in. And I would make the mistake of like telling friends or hinting at something or whatever it was. And then it would never air, or it just would. Just there's so many variables. Now you just have to keep your fucking mouth shut and not tell anybody anything until it's on deadline.
Yeah,
and that's exactly
let people tell you what what we're saying before.
That's exactly what we were saying before. Like when something.
Hey, congrats! I was like, oh yeah, sorry. Why didn't you say anything before?
You'll know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Whatever, Yeah.
And most recently, what's some of the stuff you've done that you've been most excited about?
Man, I mean, I think that I've gotten like this this next year, 2020, I'm gonna be in a new show called Hentified on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm like in a recurring role, but that was very cool because that was like it's the first show that I'm gonna be like in a recurring role that I'm actually have a. Like I'm a character, you know what I mean? Like I have a name. I'm not just some dude,
some like random
banker number one, whatever, But like, so that's pretty cool in a way, and like
that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's something that and also what's cool about it is like the way that I got it too, because it's like the two creators, like they kind of knew me. One of the creators, I worked with her. Like one of the first times that I moved, to LA, I did this web series, and she was part of the web series. I don't remember, So she knew me from there, and then the other co-creator, he saw me from doing stand up, and he liked me and stuff like that.
And that's the thing is when you put in time and you work on a ton of shitty projects, like. Shitty projects turn into less shitty projects, People get better.
Yeah.
Directors become good directors. Producers become better producers.
Yeah.
And eventually, people just keep wanting to work with people they've already worked with.
That's the thing. I mean,
it's all about longevity here. Like, how long can you last?
It's a marathon. Look at Scorsese with like De Niro and Pacino.
Yeah.
They just he's like that's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
They just work with the same people
Exactly.
And Scorsese works with the same DP. It's not even just actors. He works with the same DP. He works with the same editor. That's it.
Yeah, it's just his team.
It's his team, So like that's why like you said, you gotta do pretty much everything and also be cool with everybody because you never know who's gonna be the guy who's gonna hire you or the girl who's gonna hire you.
Exactly.
So.
Yep. So where can everybody find you on social media?
Well, you can follow me at F Ramos Comedy on Instagram, at Francisco Ramos or Francisco Ramos. That's the American way on Twitter. And then that's pretty much it. I mean,
website, ticket sales.
FranciscoERamos.com, and I have all my calendar there for if anybody is gonna be in Salt Lake City area, I'm gonna be there next weekend, December 13th. And 14th at the Wise Guys Comedy Club, Jordan Landing location.
Sweet. This comes out on the 10th, so anybody that's in that area, go see him.
Yeah.
And any other touring stuff you want to put in, plug?
Next, I'm doing some early, some colleges early next year, and then also doing some other clubs as well. Gonna be in DC, Lake Tahoe. I'm gonna be there late January as well, Lake Tahoe Improv.
When are you going to be in DC?
I know I'm gonna be there next year. I don't know there yet. They're still figuring out the date.
Okay.
But either it's gonna be the DC Draft House.
Okay, I'm headlining the Comedy Loft.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I haven't ever played DC.
Oh,
I've
great.
never even been to DC.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna love it. When are you doing it?
I'm doing it February 16th.
Nice. Oh,
it's
cool. Let me know so I can let people know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's gonna be I got friends over there. So I've done the Comedy Loft. It's cool. It's like an underground bar thing.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay. Yeah. It looks really cool, and they seem to have they've had a good track record. Of
they have a good.
So
it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
So,
and I still I don't know.
And this is a good crowd. I mean, they're smart. They know. They're Not that. I mean, more. You think they're conservative, but they're not. You know, you just gotta know how to. You know, so you'll be
Yeah,
good, you know.
I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
I've one of my best friends lives in DC. We actually like split ways. When I was moving to LA, she was moving to DC, and
Oh,
she works
okay.
in politics, and I work in comedy. And
Which is
always,
pretty much the same thing.
yeah, we always joke that actually hers is worse.
Yes.
Politics.
Oh yeah.
She was like drunk at a bar once and was just like mildly talking shit about her boss. Didn't say any names or anything. And got a text from her boss saying, "Stop talking about me."
What? So
Yeah.
how do they?
Because somebody overheard and knew which department she was working in, like wildfire.
Jeez.
And I heard she told me that, and she was like,
was the boss going like, "Stop talking about me, please stop talking about me.
"Yeah, exactly.
I'm the best. I listen to everything.
I'm amazing.
I'm amazing. Please stop. Don't
Tremendous.
talk.
I'm tremendous."
That was a perfect call.
And you can find me at NPH Comedy on all social, nphcomedy.com for upcoming tickets. You can find nphcomedy.com/TIX. Like I said, DC in February. I'm going to be doing Sketchfest.
Nice. San Francisco.
Yeah,
right?
and got some other cool stuff coming up next year in Edinburgh 2020. So,
Oh, cool. Nice.
you know, if you're all the way in Scotland, I'm sure I have maybe like one listener out there.
That'll be great.
One listener in Scotland. Any closing remarks?
No, thank you for having me. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
I
thank you for being here.
It was very fun talking
It's
to
fun to get to know everybody and their backgrounds
you.
and all that stuff.
We
so,
don't know. Yeah.
yeah, now I can actually, you know, now I know you live two lives, and I can actually talk to you about that
Now
one.
you can talk to me, whoever you gotta choose which guy you want to talk to.
Depending on if I'm drunk or sober, I'll be
Yeah.
one or the other. All right, bye.
Bye.